the first step of the journey is, how do I recognize it may be possible that I could be loved even if I wasn't meeting people's needs? Hello, and welcome to The Things That Come Between Us. I'm your host, Charu Morgan, and I've been working with couples and individuals for almost 20 years, supporting them in feeling more connected to their own body, their sexuality, and their partners. On this podcast, we're talking about the things that come between us and our desire to really deeply connect with other people. Thank you so much for joining me. And if anything that I'm saying really lands for you in a way that you're wanting more support with, I offer private one-on-one sessions where you can really get customized support with what's going on in your relationship, in your sex life, in your personal relationship to your sexuality. In the podcast, I speak generally about things, and the great thing about working one-on-one with me is that I can help you with your specific needs and navigate the nuance of your personal experience with you. I can give you the hand-holding that you need to get you to your next level. Sessions are offered virtually or in person in Northern California and can be done weekly, or I offer immersions for those wanting more of a deep dive. For more information, you can check out charumorgan.com/sessions, and we will link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much. Today I want to talk about those of us who have unconsciously built our worth on being needed. And we tend to believe that this gives us value and makes us worthy of love. Often, those of us who feel this way are also really great intuitive readers of what state people are in and if there's a disruption in their system. And this can be an incredible and special gift that we can use to support and really care deeply for people. It's usually, but not always, a combo of something that we just came in with, just a natural gift, and something that we've honed because there was a home situation when we were young that we did not feel safe in. And so learning to use our sensitivity to read those around us allowed for us to feel some sense of control and to monitor our behavior to avoid challenging situations with this person. And that, of course, could include anything from yelling to physical abuse to withdrawing care and beyond. This often goes hand in hand with using a natural sensitivity to read what someone might need in order to balance their system and feel cared for. And if we can fulfill that need, we can become even safer. And we can bond deeply and feel the connection that we just need so much as children. We are literally wired to understand that our life depends on this. You know, if our caretakers don't help us meet our basic needs, human babies will die. So learning these skills, the skill of being able to read the state that our caretaker is in, and then being able to give them what they need in order for their system to feel more balanced, was not just coping, it was survival. And when these skills are used where there is reciprocity, deep and caring connections can be built. True intimacy, the kind of intimacy we really long for, can evolve. Because this likely developed with a caretaker who was somehow distant or inaccessible or even violent, who we could only bond with when we found what they needed and we gave it to them. So we were in this cycle of a denial of needs and then finally feeling whole and connected only when we took this action to recognize what was going on with them, read their system, and give it to them. And so there was this bliss of finally receiving the connection, which is also lifeblood to human beings as social animals. So we could say that whenever we repeated this pattern with them, the reward our system would get would be this incredible feeling of bonding and connection. So when we are in a situation as an adult where there is reciprocity, where there is giving and receiving, we won't necessarily feel that deep, rich, what to our body feels like a holistic sense of like that longed for connection. So how this manifests in our adult relationships is if we have this imprint that we are worthy of love when we can see a need, we can fulfill that need, and then we feel valuable because we're able to fulfill that need for someone. And then essentially when we're in there and they're feeling like we're fulfilling the need and we feel really comfortable and happy, and some part of us feels like we're finally receiving love. We're receiving love, we're receiving acceptance, and we're special because we're the one who was able to fulfill the need. And that can feel fulfilling in a very special way with a very certain flavor. And just like I spoke about, that's mirroring a dynamic that we may have had in our younger life. And so someone who has that desire to meet the need often feels drawn to someone who has a feeling inside of them where there's almost like an endless well of need, and the need is incredibly strong, and it's almost as if the need could never be fulfilled. And you can kind of see how this would be a very interesting match. And a lot of times these two kinds of people they're just drawn to one another. It's kind of magnetic. And in the moments that the need is being fulfilled by someone, the bond can feel so incredible, like I'm talking about these magnets or these puzzle pieces. I needed to be needed, and I sought out someone who had a need, and they needed someone to fulfill that need, and then I filled it, and then in that moment, there's the bliss that feels like this incredibly deep connection. And again, just like I was speaking about before, that bliss is often mirroring finally feeling what we registered as like a true or healthy, intimate connection with a caretaker. And while we're in that, it can feel really deep and really nourishing. And then when we come out of it, I was just talking to a client recently about this, when we come out of it, when we have a break from spending time with someone like that, if you're the one who has found your worth and value giving through meeting that need, through finding the need and then meeting that need, sometimes when you're in that vortex with someone, you don't even notice how much it might be costing you to fulfill that need. And so then when you take a step away, you might notice that you're feeling drained or a little beat up or like you've lost something or maybe disoriented, like you don't even know yourself anymore. And that could be a day that you spend with this person, being in that sweet, intimate connection, or it could be years. It could be years of spending with that person. Then you take this break and you notice how drained you felt. And when you're in that swirl of the connection that's built on this, I need to give in order to feel I'm worthy of love, you need to receive because you have this strong need, the payoff can feel so, so delicious, and yet there can often feel this feeling, the drained feeling. And also the one who's looking to feel the need is being fulfilled as soon as the supply has shifted at all. As soon as you stop meeting that need in that way that they really love because you know how to do it just right, and the two of you felt that beautiful, rich swirl of what felt like connection and intimacy, but now for whatever reason, you've taken a little step away, you're recalibrating, you can feel yourself again, they will suddenly have an even bigger need. They will need more, and oftentimes that person feeling that well of need will do whatever they have to get that need met, which again is a perfect match for someone who finds their worth in filling in the need, right? And so if you're the one filling the need, you'll feel when you step away, you'll notice there's that drain feeling, maybe a disoriented feeling, maybe like a dawning that maybe there were things that didn't really feel good. Maybe some of the things they've said actually, when you get a chance and some breathing room, you can see they were a little bit unkind, and You can start seeing the ways maybe they've been taking you for granted, and it starts to dawn on you a little bit now. And now they're knocking at your door with an even bigger need. And your need to be needed gets pinged. And even though you're exhausted from the last time you gave to them, and even though you're disoriented, and there's some part of you that feels like something isn't quite right here, I need to recalibrate, their need is now really big. And they're making it really clear to you. So you say to yourself, one more time, I'm going to meet this need because I want to feel that bond with them. I don't want to lose that in my life. That's very precious to me. That intimacy, that closeness I feel when I'm meeting their need. This is all unconscious, of course. You're not consciously thinking these thoughts. And when I'm meeting their need and they feel that need being met and we're in that juicy vortex together, I'm getting that payoff of this is reminiscent of how I have defined love in my young life. And so even maybe I know enough to know that I'm getting drained by this. But, let me just do it one more time because it seems like this is a real issue. And if I don't show up for them this time, then they'll probably withdraw their love from me. And I can't risk the love, the intimacy. So I have to compromise what I might really need in order to show up and meet them. And then again, somehow I'll get out of the vortex after meeting that need again. And again, I'm a little wobbly. And I start to find myself again. And I think, oh, good. We put out that fire, whatever that need was. And we did that. And we're still close. And as soon as I start to recalibrate, once again, they'll come in with an even bigger need. And there may even be some feeling of like a threat of, I already feel internally a threat that if I don't keep showing up to meet the need, I will lose that intimacy and that closeness. And that's the love that I long for. That's what feels really good. And again, you're not saying those words to yourself. It's just happening unconsciously. And what's really hard is that if you dare to say, I can't meet that need right now because I'm really wobbly and I need to take care of myself, they will often start using whatever tools they have in their toolbox. Maybe before it was an invitation. Then eventually it was a cry for help. And now it might start to accelerate and be ways to threaten that you'll lose the connection or their love, or that you'll somehow lose them. And that they might even start to say they don't think you're good at meeting the need. Like even maybe like a little bit of a dare. You never really met my need anyway. Maybe they'll threaten that they'll find someone else to meet that need. And the thing about breaking away from a pattern like this is the key is, and I also just want to say this is something that can happen in familial relationships, as I spoke about in the beginning. It can happen in love relationships. It can also happen in friendships, in work relationships. This dynamic in varying degrees is not limited to romantic partnering. So how do we start to possibly break away from a pattern like this? The key is recognizing that your value is not dependent on you being a person who can meet a need. That capacity that you have to meet someone's need is a skill, and that will serve you in reciprocal relationships. So it's not that you have to let go of that, but believing that that is the only thing that makes you valuable is what creates this particular kind of vortex. These relationships that actually oftentimes are really draining and not necessarily healthy and supportive. And the reason that we have trouble breaking away from them is the belief that if I don't meet this, if I'm not the person who meets the need, then I will not be loved as I am for who I am. And that's a journey. The first step of the journey is, how do I recognize it may be possible that I could be loved even if I wasn't meeting people's needs. That me whole, as I am, taking care of myself, tending to my own needs in a caring way, could be enough. That would be the first step in the journey. And then the second step would be, as I start to build that inner fortitude, then when they come toward me with the need, with the high level need, with the now emergency level or even threatening, can I know that even if I lose their love, their attention, their care, the particular sweetness of the form of intimacy we share when they have a need and I fulfill it, and we both have that sweet vortex for a moment that feels like real intimacy, do I have the courage to not sacrifice myself and my needs and self-care and my wholeness in the interest of that feeling and in the interest of believing that I'm loved by that person? Can I risk maybe even losing their affection and that particular kind of intimacy? And can I be strong enough to know it's possible to have an intimacy that might feel different? Can I trust that there may be a kind of intimacy that will be reciprocal? A kind of intimacy that I can trust that when I feel a need and I show up and I serve that need, you will also show up when I have a need. And that you won't just take advantage of the fact that some part of me believed my worth was based in part on you needing me. And can I have the courage to allow for the possibility that I may lose those connections with that person who has the well of need in service of a possibility for something that may actually be closer to love beyond a certain kind of transaction in exchange for an intimate feeling that likely mirrors something we really longed for in early development, something we maybe was one of our only imprints for something that felt like love. And it's a journey where we have to be really courageous. And again, this can't happen all at once. For those of us that are the need meter and have our worth tied in to meeting people's needs, untangling from this is one little baby step at a time. It's a lifetime journey, constantly making choices and daring to believe the possibility that you may be lovable, even if you don't do all the perfect things to meet everyone's needs. We have to be so patient and caring with ourselves when we untangle from it. It's so tender. And it's not going to change overnight, and it isn't something that's wrong with us. Being giving in that way, having the capacity to read the people around us and what they would most need and finding it in ourselves to be able to give that to them, that's an amazing way to love in an appropriate circumstance where there is mutual giving and receiving, where there is reciprocity. And that's what we need to have an awareness of if we're wired in that way. The biggest piece is untangling that idea that in order to be loved, I need to meet your need. So I hope that this has been enlightening and supportive for those of you who may be need meters. I definitely identify with that for sure. And I just thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you enjoyed this, please follow or subscribe and maybe give us 5 stars, write us a review, share an episode with a friend. It really helps. I'm just wanting to get this work to more people, and I love sharing it. And you sharing what you've enjoyed helps me to get this to the right people who will really benefit and receive something. And if anything that I'm saying lands for you in a way that you're wanting more support with, remember that you can book one-on-one work with me, where I can really customize that support. And you can find out more about that at charumorgan.com/sessions. We'll link to that in the show notes. Thank you again. I love sharing with you in this way, and I will see you next week.